CLG was just trapped into doing nothing almost the whole game. Coast took all the objectives, as you said, and CLG never contested until it was too late. So that's, if Coast can have that type of game again, they're going to take it every time, because there was no reason for them to have to force anything, because CLG was actually just conceding it all.
And something we've been seeing consistently against Coast is 2 bans for ZionSpartan. It happened last time these teams played, and it looks like he really hasn't gotten
just
too much attention but the one.
And what's very interesting about this is ZionSpartan's undefeated Riven this season, 5-0. He's actually the only person to play Riven, but he hasn't lost with it. And it's been getting banned out ever since he went 5-0 for almost the past 10 games. This time, CLG's decided to leave it open because they've been losing to his Shen and actually decide not to do the double or triple ban against Zion like everyone else has been doing, and they just banned the Shen.
The Twisted Fate is going to be the last one. Quite a bit left up in the realm of top-tier choices for a lot of these guys.
And by the way, we're on the 3.10 patch now. So there is a lot different. I'm actually a little surprised we saw the Elise ban right now, because of the champions who were nerfed or changed, Elise got some of the most significant changes. We'll get into that later when we actually have an Elise game to talk about, but instead, CLG just goes with a, even though popular, kind of run-of-the-mill first pick here in Ahri, which is just a generalist champion that Link excels on.
So, Jet, you have to consider, what do you do against a team you're 0-3 against? It's the first of your games in Super Week. You can't show all your cards right now, but you have to beat a team that you haven't beat yet.
I actually feel like CLG should show... Ooh, we'll get to that Ziggs pick in a second. CLG should show a lot of their cards in this game, because if they don't get off on the right foot, they're just putting themselves in a hole for this entire Super Week. It's not like the games afterwards mean more for their standings. Every single game in the regular season means exactly the same, so all these wins are important. And against a team like Coast, who, since they're tied for 6th place in League, shouldn't be a big barrier for CLG to beat. But CLG, for some reason, has trouble with these teams, so they need to put all their cards on the table and just go for it this match.
In that Ziggs pick, we heard Shiphtur say a few weeks ago, or last week, not last week, in an interview, that they would play that if they had a composition that revolved around Ziggs.
And Shiphtur is someone who played Ziggs way back in January during the first LCS qualifying tournament, and he was good at it.
Yeah.
Just spammed all day, very strong with the skill shots, and I'd imagine they're going for a fairly AoE-heavy team, or a team with a lot of follow-up after Ziggs just dumps a bunch of damage on the team and then everyone else can come in at the end. Ziggs, very strong laner, huge amounts of AoE damage, 4 AoE damage skill shots, but not that much individual safety, so I want to see how they build the rest of the composition around it.
And we actually see NintendudeX switching up his jungle choice. When you said it last week, he kind of has the most consistent on one. You'd think he'd have the least and the most variety played. On the other hand, Counterlogic Gaming, heavy initiation team. Again, Zach picking up a lot of speed here towards the end of the summer split, but we've also seen it hurt with the follow-up initiation not being there for teams, kind of causing pain.
Well, at least for this CLG team, everyone is going to be flying around everywhere, which is fantastic when you're dealing against a team that is so reliant on skill shots. Look at the team Coast has already put together. Ezreal, all skill shots. Ziggs, all skill. Even Zyra doesn't have a targeted spell, so it's going to be so difficult for them to just get their hands on CLG, since everyone on that team, including Vayne and Nocturne, can juke around that stuff. I really like CLG's picks here.
And the big picks of Vayne coming out for Doublelift. We've seen Ezreal and Vayne both hovering at the top of his tier choices, but that was grabbed right off the bat. The AD carry was first pick for Coast.
And, I mean, we talked about in the past how Doublelift seems to excel on Ezreal. I think that was a smart pick for Coast to take Ezreal away right at the start, but then I do feel like the rest of this composition is just jumping right back into CLG's favor. What Coast will have to do now that they've locked in that Rumble at the end is it puts an immense amount of emphasis on Daydreamin landing that route, because if he does not land Stranglethorns, none of their other skill shots or comboing is going to land. They won't be able to keep people in Rumble ult, they won't be able to keep people in Ziggs ult, and everything's just going to scatter and CLG is going to crush them. But if he lands that one skill, they'll have the chance to just combo those people out. So it's incredible pressure on him.
And the Nocturne pickup as well, coming in last for Counterlogic Gaming, that's going to go to Big Fat, has been a high choice for him coming into the season. It allows him to go for the factor of, I can be annoying in every lane, and you can also be annoying by getting 6 and not showing yourself, because that ultimate is quasi-global and you have to worry about that.
And specifically, bigfatlp uses it better than anyone else to black out the screen. I really like CLG's composition overall for this match.
We'll have to see. They do have the follow-up that we were hoping they would bring to the team. They have the Ahri, Thresh, Zac, Nocturne, so Noc won't be all by his lonesome if he decides to jump in. Big Fat will definitely have help from Zac's Elastic Slingshot to come in, but we did see the entire skill shot, hard to grab team coming out for Ezreal, the Zyra disengage on Coast. So Coast is definitely noticing and respecting that dive composition coming in from Chronologic Gaming.
And this game for CLG is just going to be so indicative of how they finish their season, because if you just look CLG's records against Coast and Velocity, even though tied for 6th and last place teams in league, CLG's 1-5 combined against those two teams. They have to pick it up against essentially the bottom tier teams in the NALCS this season, and if they don't do that, then CLG will become one of those teams themselves and not make it to the playoffs. So they have to turn it around here.
See behind us, CLG versus Coast. CLG in the blue, Coast in the red. As we begin our Super Week, we are onto the Rift, and the players are ready to go. We have 20 games coming up in the next 3 days, plus the next 20 going over in Europe. So, ladies and gentlemen, prepare your eyes for some League of Legends.
There's going to be a few games over next week, and they have a little bit of importance. And I want to talk a little bit about Chauster's Thresh here as well, because we mentioned that NintendudeX last week had the most individual champion picks in 10 Jarvan games. Last week, Chauster passed him. He's actually got 12 Thresh games now. This makes it 13, because he has progressively learned this champion throughout the split, and he's getting better and better at it. And he better if you're going to be picking it that much, but it fits very well with the CLG composition and the way they want to avoid Coast for most of this game.
Making their way around. The last time these two teams played, CLG tried for a late invade on the blue, but it looks like both teams will get early coverage. We'll see if they make it out safely. It seems that Coast isn't trying to move from here. They're trying to catch him on the way back out.
Coast has a really good chance of catching something good here if they were more patient. Because
only if
CLG had no real way of getting vision on Coast, and Coast could have recognized that. Because when CLG walked through that ward towards the Coast blue buff, Coast would have seen all 5 members of CLG. And if Coast just waited and stayed in the CLG jungle here, they could have lined up a Stranglethorns right for that group of 5 and just got a kill. But they were impatient, and they went for an opposite blue buff invade instead.
And that gives you some things to consider, you know. Was it, Coast homework there that they were like, we didn't see CLG yet when we did the strat before we did. We actually have to change it now. So possibly adapting or just going along with it. Nobody gets a kill here in the early part of the game, and they really didn't even see each other. So they're still going to figure out the lanes as they match up.
Technically, Coast is getting a blue buff steal right now because they're taking CLG's blue buff. But since bigfatlp has started right at this red, and because CLG has warded up Coast blue buff, it's not a real steal, because I feel like they're just going to walk in, trade buffs, and both junglers will have double buffs regardless.
See a little bit of help from Chauster here in the bottom lane if he can get up to help with, I was going to say balls, but it's ZionSpartan. Just seeing that rumble click.
ZionSpartan. It's actually really funny.
MashMe and Daydreamin? What's that?
Yeah, that we talked about, laners won't be able to take the small camps ever in this game. Nien waited until 2:05 to take the Wolves, and then just decided to recall, because of the 1v2 matchup against Ezreal and Zyra, he wouldn't be able to get any of these minions anyway for the first minute. As you can see, MashMe and Daydreamin are freezing the lane, hitting as slow as possible to avoid pushing it, and Nien had no reason to be there, so he took the jungle anyways.
Making the best of a tough situation. So we see the bottom lane getting pushed up. We'll see if ZionSpartan gets early help, as it is going to be Nintendu just kind of waltzing to lane right now. Big Fat seems like he's going to be heading towards the top lane as well. So in this early portion of the game, is there going to be help towards mid? What are they looking for to get to that early or mid phase of the game?
So this is actually a fairly similar play that we saw even before the turrets had granted their early armor, where we're still seeing 2v1 lane swaps, and then we're also seeing junglers essentially babysit their 1v2 so they don't get denied or so the turret doesn't get pushed down. If bigfatlp didn't choose to help Nien up here, based on the turret changes, the turret actually wouldn't have taken that much damage, but they're still choosing to sit in the lane, leech XP, and allow Nien a little bit more farming safety so he doesn't fall too far behind.
Coast continuing, keep pressure on at least that bottom lane as Nintendu goes back for his wolves and then returns. They want to make sure once everybody hits 6, they can get that Rumble ultimate, that Nasus, Zyra, Ziggs onto an objective like Dragon.
Yeah, that's an absolute Dragon fight team. And if Coast doesn't go for a Dragon around that time of the game, I'll be very surprised. Specifically because the last matchup where Coast played against CLG, Coast completely dominated those objectives. So that's a good observation there, seeing how Coast just wants to force that AoE fight in small corridors so CLG can't outmaneuver them.
Blue ward allows them to know that Big Fat was heading towards the top lane, so really no aggression or kill lanes coming out from both teams. They're kind of just feeling it out and seeing for someone to make a mistake.
And that's something that always happens when you have a Nasus in the game. It happens even more when they don't actually jungle. They just show themselves in the lane. That actually adds a pretty dynamic thing to the mid lane matchup between Shiphtur and Link here, because
there's been no pressure there.
This is like they're playing on that all-star 1v1 map, Magma Chamber, because there is no threat of junglers whenever they decide to just sit in the lane. Now it's changing a little bit as NintendudeX has disappeared from the bottom lane, but that mid matchup has been completely mono-y-mono between Shiphtur and Link.
We'll have to see. Nintendu's actually getting to mobilize a little bit more than Big Fat is here, knowing he's still in the top lane, tries to go for Wraiths. I believe he was able to soak that up, and now he moves back into his own jungle.
I think the teams throughout this Super Week are going to be feeling out these new turrets.
It's kind of a learning experience.
Yeah, specifically because the armor bonus actually decays over the first 8 minutes. That, you know, I just want to see how they react to it, because you can see how healthy that turret is right now, already 5.5 minutes into the game. The average first turret for every week leading into the LCS up until now was actually 8 minutes and 8 seconds. And I feel like it's going to obviously increase after this one, but it'll be interesting to see.
Like we said, steady pressure. Nothing really trying to get a kill in the, or no one really trying to get a kill in these lanes just yet. A lot of level 5s and almost the 6 to activate those first fights. And we see more help from Big Fat to the top lane, as this time it's going to be Nintendude, which means there isn't much pressure on the bottom lane, so they're going to have to be keeping eye on ZionSpartan.
But it's still funny that bigfatlp is mirroring NintendudeX now. So once again, the turrets won't be getting crushed down, as the wave clear potential from bigfatlp and Yen is actually pretty decent.
Those plants keeping CLG at bay from even trying to get a little bit more trade damage in. Back in the bottom lane from Doublelift and Chauster. Quick pickups. Looks like it's going to be a Blade of the Rune King for Doublelift this game.
And I think in this match, we're waiting for the big ultimates to come in. I love the combination of Ahri and Nocturne, specifically when you're going for kills. I don't actually think it's the most teamfight synergistic thing, but if you want to kill one person, you just do Ahri Nocturne, because you chase them with Ahri first, get them to dash away, then Nocturne comes in and there would be no escape afterwards. And I think that's a combination that bigfatlp and Link are going to try to do, to at least put the pressure onto Coast to do something, because that's not something CLG was able to do in their last matchup.
Now, what are we waiting to see from Ahri and Ziggs in mid? After they have been fighting each other, when do they roam? How do they roam now? Because Ziggs can only walk halfway out of lane.
Yeah.
Ahri's got to run that lane.
I feel like Shiphtur waddles a little bit and just lobs his ult into either lane. I don't necessarily think he's going to be going straight up for Link unless he lands a lot of damage beforehand. Right. But for the most part, Coast was just saying, hey, we're going to take this dragon.
Well, okay.
Honestly, that's something we should have kind of expected.
Yeah.
Because Coast wanted a dragon fight, and CLG knew Coast wanted the dragon fight. So why even bother? Just give them dragon, I suppose. I don't think they can do that forever, though, because then again, Coast would just take them out. Well,
that will definitely keep the roll of objectives going in the favor of Coast. They grabbed the first one here, consecutively keep it going from their last game, however. This top tower taking a good bit of damage. That minion wave is quite close, and they may be able to take it down. No, balls again. ZionSpartan going to present himself in the top lane. I'll get it.
Yeah, it's coming. It's a Rumble. ZionSpartan hasn't won a game on Rumble yet, so it's the first time for everything here. And that armor buff on the turrets is gone now, because we're 8 minutes into the game, which is why you can see it taking a good chunk more damage here from Doublelift and Chauster. But once again, not only are the turrets there to prolong the laning phase, these teams are playing to prolong those outer turrets.
Nintendude getting grabbed up.
Ooh,
I was
this
just
is
about to say we haven't seen too much damage. The exhaust goes down. Doublelift throws down the ultimate. One more shot, condemned into the wall. It could be a trade back here. The retribution kill trying to come in for ZionSpartan. He flashes. Ooh. The spitter's on. He gets flayed back, but he does pick up the kill. Doesn't have the scrap shield to bring it up, and Chauster pulls it back in for a kill there. 2 for 1.
And there's the Ziggs lob. Oh, it doesn't quite make it in. But that fight specifically for CLG was amazing, because Doublelift waited out the Wither and right as Chauster's death sentence landed, the Wither was gone from Doublelift, so it allowed them to put down the maximum amount of damage onto NintendudeX and ZionSpartan for the start of that fight, which gave Doublelift the double kill, which is the most dangerous thing that happens against CLG.
It's exactly what they tried to do last week when they played the late Jarvan invade. We saw him go for ZionSpartan in the top lane on Shen. Wasn't able to get Doublelift those kills, but now that they did, I think Coast is definitely feeling the pressure. 2-1 at 9.5 minutes. That only puts them 300 gold behind because of the Dragon, though. So it's still absolutely anybody's game.
And this could be that Ahri Nocturne chase with Nien leading the way.
There it is. They lock in. They try to get Daydreamin to bounce back. The ultimate pops up all three. MashMe's got free damage on the outside, but he takes a big hit from the Foxfire of Link. Link does have the blue buff, so he's going to be able to keep spitting out those spells, trying to get another reel out. Big Fat and Nien could go down here. Nien's Zelda Vision, I believe, is up for this fight, but they both decide to get out.
And because Shiphtur's Ziggs ultimate was down from the lob he tried to throw up top to Chauster, he had to walk all the way down to try to mirror Link there, and it just wasn't fast enough. So that was a successful roam by Link. First advantage he's really gotten over Shiphtur in that lane.
And we're now seeing that roam come up, chat. The turrets have lost that armor, that 8-minute armor. They still haven't been taken down, though, but the pressure is coming into these lanes. Shiphtur finally moving about, but he draws Link down, so it's just going to be a party in the bottom lane here at 10 minutes.
And I'd have to say CLG's recovered in a sense from giving up that Dragon by just getting kills. And if these team in North America, you got to think it's CLG. You think of the goal of these changes, it's like, let's make the laning phase last a little bit longer. Of course, CLG wants the laning phase to last 40 minutes. It could not be better for them early on.
Nien coming in quite big again. We can actually see him picking up the cowl there for himself. And as they move up towards the top lane, they have already dropped that. So they go 1-for-1 in structures on the map and global gold. But that Dragon is still in favor of Coast. Down 800 gold. Looks like Big Fat still helping Nien in the bottom lane. CLG's kind of owning the map right now, though, as they just hover around the jungle.
Yeah, it definitely seems like CLG has a slightly different mindset than the last time they played Coast. Even though CLG did give up that Dragon early on in the game, that was strategically smart. And since then, they're using the Nocturne and Ahri ultimates to roam and create kill opportunities. So now that Link has the ultimate up again, I actually wonder if CLG is going to continue to put some emphasis on either the middle turrets or more kills.
Looks like they will start to head towards middle. We see Nien and Big Fat coming up. And will it draw the support? Daydreamin actually decides to back. They have enough siege clear on this team with a Nasus, with a Ziggs, with a Rumble in front of that turret. They really don't need everyone, which is actually going to help them to, spread themselves a little bit thin when they start trying to push some lanes.
Yeah, and something that's also interesting if we compare Doublelift to DontMashMe right now, even though we typically think of Vayne as this late game hyper carry, Doublelift is way stronger than DontMashMe right now. DontMashMe is going for the blue Ezreal build, but he's finished that Manamune right away instead of going for something like a Bloodthirster. So DontMashMe is already charging up with mana items and is not doing that much damage right now. And typically the blue build Ezreal needs about 12,000 gold before it becomes useful. Whereas Vayne becomes useful as an assassin and a duelist right as that Blade of the Ruined King is completed. And since Doublelift has this now, he is going to be stronger than DontMashMe for the next 20 or so minutes unless something drastic happens, which is a huge benefit for CLG as a team. So
this is up to Coast to take the chances that allow that safety away from Vayne. They're getting 2 pings down here. Looks like they may want to converge. Nobody's following Nintendude. He figures that out. He turns tail. Looks like we may have Dragon in 30 seconds. They do have the pink ward down, so it's going to be the pressure game now of who can push the other team out.
And it's going to be very telling whether CLG gives this up or whether they try to fight. Because CLG does have a technical advantage in this game right now because they're up in gold, up in kills, and tied in turrets. But the Dragon fight is exactly what Coast wants. It gets CLG in a confined area and would give them an opportunity to kill people. CLG should actually avoid a 5v5 Dragon fight unless they can get a very advantageous position in that battle.
We'll see how this is working as well with Doublelift being ahead. He's 115 to 86 CS. Coast now positioning themselves for this Dragon, making sure they can pinch out Big Fat LP here. They get a few shots down, throws down the shield, gets the Lantern out. Both teams are poised to fight for Dragon.
Yeah, I thought maybe CLG was going to try to turn that around for a fight, but that would be exactly the corridor where Coast wants to fight. It's slightly a wider space here in the river, but it's still very tight if CLG fights them.
Nien very confident in his initiations, but it looks like it's a quick scare off of Dragon. Some ultimates for global gold here.
I'm very surprised that CLG is not trying to push turrets. I'm surprised Nien came down from top lane, and I'm surprised they even used those ultimates to fake an engagement, because they just decide to give up the Dragon anyway, but they didn't get the lane pressure.
Oh, good pressure by Daydreamin. He pulls off the Dragon early to try and catch out Link with a little help from the team. Counter Logic's persistence here on the mid lane could grab them a turret. They need to take this down to even out that gold there. Remember, it's 2 Dragons to Coast now, and they do not get it. The hook onto ZionSpartan. It's going to be big. He actually flashes the charm. The fight will not continue.
And there is a monstrous creep wave in the bottom lane that I feel like Doublelift wants really badly right now for his overall farm. And even though CLG didn't pick up an objective, they're still probably feeling fairly comfortable about their overall positioning in this game.
See what kind of pressure they can put on the mid turret now. Not the best of clearing. They do have the Orbit Deception. Again, the initiation from the end of the back line. The confidence is there, and CLG follows up behind him. Even without Big Fat's ulti, they go into this fight sure of the kills, securing the kills. They get another one going in onto Nintendude. Shiphtur makes it out alive, but they get a good 3.
Wow, CLG caught Coast asleep with the switch right there. Because just like I was guessing that Doublelift would go down for that monstrous creep wave, Coast was thinking the same thing. CLG does not normally force 5v5 team fights when big creep waves are inside lanes. That is just not a thing they ever consider. But since they went in for a fight, they caught Coast completely by surprise and got that landslide teamfight victory.
Nien consistently going in. Sometimes it's what you need, a guy who will always go in without fear. It really gives the rest of the team that initiation to come in behind. They didn't even have an ult to go in on that with, besides, I believe, Lynx. No, Lynx was down for that too, so yeah, that was all on Doublelift running and gunning.
It was just a surprise attack. Once they used all those ultimates, Nocturne was down, R was down, there's no way Coast was expecting that. And something that's going to be a huge benefit for CLG as well is the new magic resist item we talked about, Spectre's Cowl, is completed by Nien. He's going to be building that into a Spear Visage very shortly. And since DontMashMe has that really slow ramp-up time, nothing is going to be able to kill Nien right now until DontMashMe gets strong. So he is free to jump in, even if it's not an initiation, because Coast can't kill him.
MashMe picking up the red buff for his team. We're now 17 minutes into the game. 6-1 as CLG has really activated the aggression during their fights, but still the objectives going to Coast. 2 Dragons there. The gold sits 2,000 in the favor of CLG with those kills in their favor.
Yeah, this is looking up for CLG right now, as long as they are able to make something happen right now. CLG, in their up and down topsy-turvy season, obviously being at 11 and 12, hasn't been able to pull the trigger that frequently when they have edges like this, and they generally let the other team dictate to them, which isn't happening as much this game, but it's still happening a little bit. Like the little dancing CLG did around Dragon where they had no business doing wasn't necessarily a good move. But then the fight afterwards was a great move by CLG, so they need to do more of that so Coast doesn't dictate to them, and that's the way CLG is going to close out this game.
And compared to last game, Coast dictated farming completely at this point in the game. Doublelift was not split pushing. They were all focusing on Coast in their 3 lanes pushing. So complete turn, flip side in this matchup.
Even more of a flip side because it's actually DontMashMe who is solo lane farming while CLG wants to fight.
It was NintendudeX. It was right there. Chauster implodes. Doublelift's going to go down here possibly. The Ignite is on, but he gets away. It's going to be Link from the outside. The Spirit rushes on, and he gets in with Nien to pick up 2 kills for the team. Yeah,
wow.
It was only Chauster going down.
It looked really cool at the start for Coast.
I almost didn't see it.
That's the thing we talked about, though. Daydreamin landed a Stranglethorns, and then poof. By goes Chauster, but because the rest of CLG was so mobile, Link wasn't involved in that spike. Everyone else didn't get touched, and DontMashMe was channeling his Doublelift and was off by himself in a lane 3 miles from the rest of the team, and it allowed the rest of CLG to turn that fight around.
6-1. 8-2, always increasing more in the favor of Counter Logic Gaming, along with the gold lead, along with the turrets. Now, the map pressure in their favor, which means the vision starts to creep in their favor, as Doublelift wants to be pushing these lanes. Not safe for a Vayne to go off by himself, but Doublelift, he'll manage. What's
Doublelift doing here? He's got a stinger. What's your game, Doublelift? I wonder if that was an accidental purchase while going for a Zeal, because the typical Vayne build is Blade of the Ruin King to Phantom Dancer.
I can see it.
I mean, he clicked on a dagger, and then he might have just clicked like the wrong upgrade path, or he wants the cooldown reduction on his ultimate, which has actually increased in cooldown in this patch. I don't think that's the reason, though. I'm going to guess he clicked the wrong thing.
It's still going to sting pretty well. He's well off right now. Yeah. 19.5 minutes in. Looks like they, again, trying to control the jungle. Like we said before, they were kind of doing this at 11, 12 minutes. It rains. Oh, the grab over the wall. I don't think they can do too much. The charm just missing on the outside.
And once again, CLG is completely safe until Daydreamin lands a Stranglethorns. Anything short of that, and everyone on CLG can escape this fight, which is why this highly mobile composition for CLG feels safe, positioning in fairly dangerous parts of the map.
And this is going to have to be one of the most for sure initiations coming in for CLG. Doublelift's cleanse is down. Obviously, Coast knows that, and CLG knows that. So there's more attention on him if this fight happens in the next 40 seconds.
And here's another weird CLG thing. There's a huge wave in the lane, and CLG isn't there. They're actually taking a dragon right now, which is news to every CLG fan.
Well, they break the trend. They are able to get an objective away from Coast with this game. Now 2-1 in Dragons overall. We'll see that next one coming up around 26:35. Daydreamin just on the outside, the charm over the shoulder. Whoa, Deathfire Grasp, Orb of Deception. Goodbye.
That's a thing.
That's a thing.
And that is no longer a Zyra, because Daydreamin is dead. I like the Deathfire Grasp rush by Link, and I like that move by him specifically because assassination attempts like this is a huge part of CLG's game plan. That's one of the big reasons they first picked the Ahri. Link, if he's not on a support-tied champion like Orianna, can make his own plays. So CLG is not completely dependent on what Doublelift builds.
And they gave Link a bit of safety here by taking away Shiphtur's Zed, too. They said, we want to be the ones to do this. We're going to give you something you haven't played regularly. Yeah. bigfatlp on to Nocturne. He does have the Spirit of the Golem. He's almost the item behind here. He doesn't have his boots finished. Like he's going for Merc. No, you wouldn't go for Merc Treads, too.
They might fight right here. Nien is in position to jump in.
He didn't.
No.
I was waiting. He was definitely stretching it.
He wanted to.
He got the ward. Zyra clearing him out of the bush.
CLG wanted red buff
I feel like CLG should kind of just aggress on a fight here. They can continuously win these fights.
They can. I think they want to, but as nice as it's been working out for CLG, there's a very large wave that Nien wants to farm, and Doublelift wanted red buff. So, like, they're going to get those opportunities again, because Coast is pushing out, and CLG wants to go for something.
We'll see what they come up with. Taking a look at the inventories, taking stock of the CS, a 30 CS lead coming in for Doublelift onto Vayne with 4 kills as well ahead. He is 8,200 gold to 6,100 gold in the 80 carry range. And we have to say again, it's a blue build Ezreal, and it hasn't been on par with where he needs to be during the game.
No, he is so far back from being able to get there. He's actually trying to get an early Iceborne Gauntlet.
He meant it.
Yeah, he meant it with the Stinger. He's going for Zephyr. Doublelift's item, which has just been completed. It's funny, actually, because way back at MOG, I ran into Doublelift and started talking, made the joke of how CLG doesn't fight until Doublelift has 6 items. And it's just like, he had Berserker's Greaves, and we're like, well, you can go farther. You can get a Zephyr. He's like, wow, I forgot about that item. I should build that, and we should wait. But I thought that was his 6th item. This is his, essentially, 2nd item. Sure, he's got the tenacity kicked in there, so if he gets hit by a Stranglethorns, he can escape a little easier. It might help him a little bit against the duration of Wither as well. So maybe it's a smart choice, but it looks like he's going for a QSS on top of it. So Doublelift, I think he's making up for his Stinger purchase, but we'll have to see if that was all planned.
I don't know. I feel like Doublelift does this kind of stuff. Going for pure power. No, he's got a few squishies to kill. I think he's just playing Doublelift style.
Yep.
We'll see. We have our guesses.
He's doing well. He's 4-1.
Absolutely.
So I think no matter what he buys, he's going to be successful if Nien gets the right type of initiation, but he is completely on top of a ward.
Yeah, he's hatching it from a distance here. Big Fat moving up through mid. CounterLogic giving themselves more vision to make sure when they roam, they aren't getting pulled any tricks from behind. 34,000 to 29,000 gold right now. So that 5K gold lead definitely means a few items. There it is. The end coming in the initiation right from the ward as well. Big Fat down out to Daydreamin and trying to stop the reinitiation of the disengage. Got bounced back, and it looks like they may not be able to finish this fight. A good start, though.
Yeah, when you initiate on Desire like that, it's very dangerous.
No, Nien once again, round 2 on the fight. There's Daydream, and that's what they wanted. Watching out for the true damage. Don't think it's going to be too much from his passive. Nien, the team kind of leaves him there, and he says, all right, I'm coming.
And overall, that is a 2-for-1 for CLG. So not bad, but not amazing.
Big Fat still trying to put the pressure on with Doublelift in the mid lane so they can go back, clear out their lanes, do it again. This is actually getting quite aggressive for 25 minutes here. We definitely saw that the 8-minute turret armor slowed the game down extremely in the early part, but once the teams got those items, they are going at it constantly.
And that wasn't the perfect initiation for CLG, as we can see in this replay. As they went in, the Stranglethorns landed on 3 people for CLG, so only Link and Doublelift are trying to go up the side. So none of that initiation cleanly worked at the start, which is why it didn't work perfectly. But then when Stranglethorns is down, it allowed for round 2 for CLG. They came back in, and that time Coast was not able to lock them down. So that's the reason CLG won that fight 2-for-1.
Absolutely crazy. 11-3 now. Every time CLG picks up multiple kills, it's a single kill coming in for Coast, and it's something they need to adapt and change right away. We see power coming in from Shiphtur. He's a glass cannon with this build coming in. These guys only have Nasus as their tank.
Yeah. I actually got a comment. Shiphtur has been farming tremendously this game.
Yes.
People don't generally outfarm Link on anything, and Shiphtur has done it by 40. Yes, Link has been roaming around a little bit more than Shiphtur, so you have the natural advantages there, but it's still a very impressive performance by him.
Prioritize mana regen either. So he's auto-attacking everything, getting those bouncing bombs out. That's true. Blue buff. It's pretty good. It helps. It does help a little bit.
Generally, you do see Ziggs having to build at least a Chalice or a Tier sometimes, though, but Shiphtur...
You think, or like Morello, so you can just keep spitting out bombs.
Doesn't care.
He's Shiphtur. He changes it up. We see not too many kills, but they are spread out against those who can carry, except for that Daydreamin still being the disengage. Good goal to have on to Daydreamin. We've seen actually quite a few Zyras towards the late game be the ones that build AP over most supports and really contribute to damage. Another turret picked up here by CounterLogic Gaming in the bottom lane, 27 minutes, and they are moving quite strong and quicker than usual.
Yeah, 4 turrets by 26 minutes.
Yeah.
What team we're watching?
Who is this? They are looking for more blood everywhere.
And this could be the second dragon for them as well. This is actually a fight where Coast would want to go in, but I feel like they're so pushed back at this point due to the ward coverage that CLG has put in Coast's blue jungle and all the times Coast has died that they just didn't want to mess with them there.
Nien just showing himself in mid-MashMe, trying to get a bit off of that. They may have just baited that one in. Daydreamin actually dodges out the last attack, but the box takes him down. Nintendu taking some good damage. He is going to be popped up, stopped up, and taken down. Nien's actually able to pick that one up, and there is raw power coming from CounterLogic Gaming right now. And
that's a perfect example of why Coast wasn't contesting the dragon, because they lost that fight so quickly and so badly that they weren't even able to put much damage back onto CLG, as CLG just mercilessly chased them. It's because of the incredible amount of mobility that CLG picked in and how many skill shots Coast relies on. They just can't find the way to reach at CLG. We saw this right from Champion Select.
And Coast, I don't think they're expecting all of these initiations. The fact that Nien went 3-0-5 just out of nowhere. He had that Spirit Visage, and then he's like, hey, boom, Sunfire Cape. Then he just had that fight where he gets another kill. So he has had so much gold in a short amount of time that it's helped the initiation for CLG so much.
Nien is very scary right now.
We know him as the Spider-Man usually. They banned that out away from him, even like you said, with the changes, just because of the way he can play and adapt. And we see him here, the surefire initiations, winning numerous fights. 42,000 to 34,000 here at 13-3. That time, no kills were really picked up by Coast. It was just CounterLogic grabbing the one. So we'll see what they can do now with 4 turrets to 2, and possibly a little dance, not to do Baron, but to pressure Coast into that fight.
And it's the perfect time of game for Chauster to have oracles. He delayed it a little bit when CLG had an edge on Coast, but wasn't really willing to start the objective fights yet. And now that they've won a couple team fights in a row handily, they're clearing around the Baron area. There's not a huge threat for CLG at doing Baron at this point. Obviously, the last thing they want is to get caught in a corridor chasing up against Coast. But as far as Coast actually running in and forcing a fight on CLG, doesn't seem possible, especially with Chauster going around and denying the vision.
We'll have to see what they can do. Chauster picking himself up a few kills, or a kill and some assists within those last fights. As we saw, his Thresh definitely coming around from the earlier part of the split. A champion he did not give up on, which we do see as people try to pick up a champion. And yeah, it's not for me. He actually stuck with that.
Yeah, I thought he was going to give up on it. Because his first 5 or 6 Thresh games were not very pretty.
Right.
But since then, so many fights this game have been started by beautiful Chauster death sentences. He has really gotten a hang of that champion. And I'm wondering when we're going to start seeing Thresh bans. Because when you invest so heavily in playing one champion, you do lose your proficiency with others.
MashMe and Doublelift sitting eye to eye here with both teams wavering in the left side of them on the jungle. Looks like they will back out. Ward coverage and oracles are completely known right now, so nobody can make the first move. Like you said, Coast isn't going to be the one to do it.
I just realized, even though CLG has been giving up some of those side lane farms, how immensely far ahead they are in minion kills. Nien's at 200 to ZionSpartan's 110. And then Doublelift alone is 50 ahead of DontMashMe. That's absurd.
They're keeping it on their mind. Where were they every time we'd see them in Coast Jungle? Stealing those camps?
Ziggs bomb?
Ziggs bomb. That was quite early, but what are you going to do when you don't have vision? That's a damn good attempt.
It was because Chauster had made the rounds with the oracles and the pink wards and made sure Coast wasn't close. So they saw the Ezreal ult fly through to give him vision. Shiphtur tried to guess with his Ziggs ult. But as long as CLG waited it out, bigfatlp's never missing a smite against no contestant.
Usually one to steal or take.
Contesting?
Except, yeah, it's there. You know what? We're going to write a dictionary anyways, the LCS dictionary. Usable words.
Yep.
30 minutes into this one.
Impactful.
Impactful.
It's going to be in there.
Yeah. A lot of people would say it's true.
I think it's a real word.
It isn't. I'd say it is. 47,000. They decide that Baron wasn't enough, and they decide to go on MashMe. The Deathfire Grasp. He's just below 50% health. They don't want to see that again.
And specifically because that is the only form of physical damage that Coast can bring. That does not bode well for the future.
Not something I actually noticed up until now. All of that AP coming out from Coast has kind of made it easy to mitigate that damage on the side of CLG.
That's why Nien rushed the Spear Visage and has been so successful this game. When you combo that with the Locket of the Iron Solari that's now completed on bigfatlp, 20 extra magic resist aura to everyone, that's trouble.
And look at these guys. Just the elastic slingshot, the threat that something like that has, the threat of having a hook is really pushing Coast off, and really good turret damage coming out now that CLG has started to make some of or get some of those items under their belt.
Yeah, it really looks like CLG has turned it on at the right moment in this game, which speaks very well to their preparation leading up to this Super Week. They need to do more of this because CLG, everyone talks about, almost gets sick of talking about CLG's potential because individually they seem like such amazing players. We see Doublelift in Week 8 1v2ing Psycho Sid and Bloodwater with Vayne, yet in the same game, Doublelift will lose the game because he's off pushing a lane with his 6 kills as his team's losing a 5v4 team fight. That hasn't happened this game, and CLG can't have that happen if they want to make a run at Worlds.
Well, the run at Worlds is looking good for them right now here. 13-3 as the kills have completely slowed down. We had a little bit of a farm mode kick in, a few more items being built. Definitely the last Whispers need to come out here for DontMashMe soon. He's got that pickaxe, but he's has to complete it if he really wants to start getting through some of this armor, especially on Nien, obviously.
He's just too far behind. He's got 9,200 gold. Doublelift is sitting at 13,000. And it feels like Doublelift is just messing around in the item shop right now. He's got Spectre's Cal, which maybe, honestly, as a new item, it is a very powerful singular magic resist item. Especially if he wants to get, instead of a QSS, Banshee's Veil right now, which is an even bigger ticket MR item than it used to be. It now gives 10 more magic resist than it did on the previous patch. Doesn't have mana, so it's technically more stat efficient for Vayne, who doesn't run into late game mana problems. Could be a really good thing for Doublelift, just trying to get immunity to the Coast team that could maybe try to land a fight on him. Because we talked earlier, Daydreamin, only thing that could kill Doublelift is a Daydreamin Stranglethorns. And if you have a Banshee's Veil, You reduce those threats to 0, and Doublelift just gets to win the game.
We haven't really seen an impact from ZionSpartan's Rumble this game. He was left off to the wayside. CounterLogic Gaming did a great job on that.
Surprised he didn't go for Riven. He's 5-0 with the Riven. Obviously, you don't want to pick Riven into counters, and since picking it at any point wouldn't have been the smartest thing, but when you have that type of success and that little success on other champions with everything on the line, I'm very surprised you didn't go with it.
I feel like, you're right, I feel like it would have worked better, a little bit more AD in the composition. Still great for the Ziggs AoE and the Spirit Fire you have. Zyra AoE. It's all right. They're still working this one out. 35 minutes in. They are down quite a bit of gold here. A lot of that sitting on Doublelift and Link. 4-1-6, 5-1-3, and again, Nien keeping his score without any deaths. 3-0-5. You can see these guys all over that double digit, the 10,000 gold mark, and that's only Shiphtur on the other team.
And that's because Shiphtur's taken the lion's share of the farm.
Yeah.
Specifically when Coast has been pushed back. Oh, they actually might get a fight here. CLG is pretty far ahead.
And you can see when Nien is not sure about the initiation, taking the Thresh Lantern right out of that. Coast wanted blood, though. They saw the mistake, and we'll have to see if CounterLogic Gaming can do that again. They lost that trade. We can't have CLG can't do that.
They're playing very careless right now because they can. Because they're up 13,000 gold, and they're just hoping to almost bait a team fight from Coast.
Okay.
This type of gold lead is something that CLG actually isn't that used to playing with, so they might be a little lost. I feel like CLG is just waiting for Link to blow someone up with that Deathfire Grasp and Rabadon's Death Cap. We saw him do that to Daydreamin about 3 million minutes ago before he had all his items, so he could easily do it again, but to pretty much anyone. I think CLG is just going to hope to get a pick, probably from Link, and then just go to end the game.
And if you think about it...
That would have been it.
Yeah.
But
anybody's been in this situation where every lane is pushed. You know, tension is high right now. It's the first game of Super Week. You got to figure out how to adapt this far into the game. And right now, it's to pretty much spread themselves thin, not the way they wanted. It's to guard all of their turrets from siege.
And they did a pretty good job of it. The Baron buff is expired for CLG.
Yep.
And CLG pretty much just got the farm out of it. And now maybe they seem a little bit hesitant to go in. With Nien and bigfatlp both being such huge tanks and the damage support of the Vayne and the Ahri, I feel like CLG could safely dive, even though it's immensely dangerous to dive against Nasus and Zyra. It's just going to be what they probably have to do to end this game.
I think it might, yeah, I was going to say, have to be a dive. There's so much clear right squeezed into the front line of that base. It's definitely going to have to be a whole team tumbling through the front door on that one. Link heading back. Looks like he's going to get a little bit of help here on Dragon. They have free control of these objectives now. I don't even think a Baron is a question for them. They may even just be able to grab that second one and pressure again onto the base of Coast.
The only danger CLG is kind of running into now, if any, is that DontMashMe is reaching
that his
gold threshold. Pretty good items right now for him. He's kind of skipped the AD, but since the game is late enough, he can kind of get away with it. That's mostly a completed blue Ezreal build that he has right now. But you compare that to Doublelift, who just got an Infinity Edge. I don't think that's a fair comparison. I feel like Doublelift's still going to crush him there. I think CLG's got this one pretty much in the bag. It's just a matter of executing a finish.
We'll see where they decide to go. That they looks like they're going to hover the top side of the lane. Maybe they want that top turret. They'll push down to mid. They know Baron is coming up, and it is alive right now. Like I said, they may just go after this. It's going to be no contest and the second push to follow.
DontMashMe should probably throw an Ezreal ult, and then they might try a Ziggs steal again, but that was completely blind. This is Baron.
Looks like they are going to hold on to the ulties. It's going to be necessary for the base hold. MashMe getting what he can, knowing the distance from Baron to base. And it's only going to be a few minions before they set up the boarded doors and the windows.
This was a really well-played game by CLG.
Definitely different from 0-3.
It's much different than 0-3, considering they haven't beaten Coast all year. Beating them this handily is a great sign for CLG. I'm just thinking about the ways they were able to come ahead in this game, because they knew that Coast wouldn't have that kind of late-game team-fighting prowess, or even the roaming prowess, and that the only way Coast was going to get an advantage is if CLG funneled in at a dragon fight. And CLG never did that. They avoided the one thing that would hurt them, and then played great in the rest of the game.
Nien telegraphing that one, but again, just creating tension in the area to try and break up the chaos. and possibly create some if he lets go of that slingshot. 6-2 in turrets, 5 more sit on the map here for Coast. Quite a bit of gold behind now, 61,000 to 45,000. These fights are going to be based solely off the positioning and strategy of Coast because they don't have the damage to full out fight this setup.
All you got left is position and strategy when you don't have money.
Yes.
Got to outwit them.
Hey, it's happened in the old days.
It has happened. 15,000 gold is a little much.
It is, though.
At this point. We've seen some pretty big comebacks in the LCS. This would be a new bar.
Straight to the back line. It's going to be MashMe on the left side. They're trying to focus on Nien, but he is a huge tank right now. Gets the shot out.
Look at that.
Equalizer and everything was used, but they fly right over it.
Everybody dodged it. Thresh Lantern was longer range than the giant Zyra Stranglethorns, and they got a whole bunch of damage on the turret.
Whoa,
Even a Nass Assault got burned down.
That was pretty hardcore.
That's a little scary.
That was a little scary. Looks like they're a little bit of confidence here to step out and see if it's still raining outside. Coast is going to head back in, see that it is drizzling. They can't go too far.
Link got hurt a little bit there because he's went so glass cannon. You can actually see with that Negatron cloak that he was probably going to go for an Abyssal Scepter really early on, but then they were doing so well. Whoop. Yeah, just wide right.
A little short.
He was doing so well, he just decided to keep building damage items, finish his Rabadons, finish his Void Staff, but it resulted in him almost getting blown up. And with that monstrous creep wave down in the bottom lane, I mean, old CLG habits die hard. They got to go back and clear that thing.
MashMe did exactly hit his ultimate down there, but the minions are doing the work they need to. 40 minutes into this one, they grab a bit of gold off of that. It's going to help. 48,000 now. They're looking to put this gold, especially onto MashMe, especially onto Shiphtur. It's not like their kills have actually been going onto one person. They're spread out across 3. And like we said, it was Zyra earlier, and they haven't been able to correct that in these fights.
Yeah, and the person who is not getting any gold is obviously ZionSpartan. That is
and that was
very
that was our
farm
matchup
toes.
in that lane. He was 2v1. The help from Big Fat came in, and eventually Nintendude went back to the 2v1, the 2v2 lane on the top. So Zion kind of had some trouble in that bottom lane.
He was not doing well, and part of that was NintendudeX was trying to babysit him the whole time.
Yep.
And when you're in a 2v2 with a Nasus actually takes a lot of the farm with that Spirit Fire. So it set him a little bit behind from the start. And then since then, Coast just hasn't prioritized him because Rumble does have very high base damages with all of his spells. So if you're going to have to give up farm on one person, Rumble's a good choice. But giving up that much farm to only have 126 4-1 minutes in makes him almost a non-factor, which is not a good thing.
And Jat, you called that Banshee's Veil coming out for Doublelift. It kind of makes the Zyra non-existent now that he can kind of run amok in these fights.
Yeah, I'm waiting for CLG to finally go in. One shot on the turret, and now probably just a conceded inhibitor.
Nien knows he can bounce in, draw a few skill shots out, gets himself caught up in that route, but he will be A-okay. Death Sentence rather missing out. They will grab the inhibitor back out on this one, and I don't think Coast is really going to be able to retaliate. Once again, they have to watch this happen until they continuously build these items up. A Blade of the Rune King trying to be built out here by MashMe.
Yeah, and something that's probably annoying CLG a little bit is how well Coast is actually pushing the side lanes. Whether it's been Ezreal ultimates or just Ziggs clearing a wave super quickly and then running back is one of the things that's preventing CLG from actually ending this game. Because even though we like to say, oh, CLG is addicted to creep waves, they actually have to go back and clear these. Otherwise, the sides of their base would be eventually getting taken down. You can see already one of the inner turrets was taken down for CLG, and that other one was in danger of falling down as well. Fairly good stall by Coast, I just don't think it'll be enough.
Haven't left their base. All their waves are past mid.
Pretty good.
Thumbs up.
With the inhibitor down, that becomes a lot more difficult, though. All those pesky
They will start
healths.
to see those super minions, a little bit stronger minions in the outside lanes as well. So it is going to be that push coming in from CLG here. Looks like they don't worry about the bottom. That Baron is going to be a minute and a half away. The Dragon is not a worry here. It looks like CounterLogic knows that gold lead is there, and they're going to use it to their advantage.
I mean, the last thing CLG would want to do is decrease their average game time.
Yeah.
They had to wait until at least 43 minutes, so they were on average before the end of this game. That's probably the reason they've stalled.
The switch has been turned on. Big Fat and Link, both very, very deadly in their own rights here with the gap
It's going to be over
closers.
average in like 3 seconds. Then they can finish.
This is going to be big.
All right.
You're going to see it happen right here. Super Week Day 1, over average.
Ta-da.
Happened.
Yeah.
The fight going for the top lane. Baron may not be necessary for the rest of this one. It's going to be the initiation from the end. He comes in from mid and just throws himself to the back line. Daydreamin hasn't been able to throw out the ultimate yet. It's focused on a Nintendude. Condemned against the turret himself. Link going back. They throw out the Ziggs ultimate. It looks like the chase will be there. The Iceborne trying to slow them down. It looks like they won't continue.
It's smart team fighting by CLG. Nien zoned out 3 people, while CLG got a tremendous amount of turret damage. And then as soon as Coast tried to lay down their line of ultimates, CLG just backed away. It's not the most exciting way to watch them finish a game, but it sure is effective.
Nien wreaking so much havoc in these fights with that Randuin's towards the back line. He wasn't even on MashMe that time. He was keeping 3 together in the back. That was Zion, Shiphtur, and Daydreaming. And only pick up 1 kill. Coast is definitely grabbing for that rung of the ladder to keep themselves on and holding into this game right now. 14-3. That 3 has been there since 15 minutes.
Yeah. They have not got an inch off of CLG in the last 20 or 30 minutes of this game. This looks like Baron number 3 for CLG as well. I really wonder what they're still going to build. I mean, Doublelift normally sells his boots for a Zephyr. What's left?
I didn't know what to sell.
You know, thinking about that Zephyr a little more since we've had some time.
It's the stay alive item.
Yeah, 10% move speed as well. And Vayne, especially with Blade of the Ruined King, relies so much about moving around the sides of team fights and kind of getting in to assassinate the right targets. The Zephyr does help him substantially with that. It's something to ask him afterwards, I think.
Absolutely.
What's up with the Zephyr Doublelift?
What's up with the Zephyr build? Seems like it could be specific to Vayne, however.
It would be.
In that build.
It would absolutely be specific to Vayne if it's a reason. I don't think that would be in every 80 carry item at all.
Unless you're Doublelift. Then we'll see.
Plays by his own rules.
Missing that route again towards the back line. MashMe feeling pressure from Nien. The bomb goes in and it hits the entire team, but Nintendude, he's not able to get his ultimate in. Dash onto Daydreamin, and they continue the fight. The gap closers are there. The kills are there. The secured Nexus will be there for Counter Logic Gaming.
Yeah, and that was a long time in the making, that fight, because CLG prepped it for about the last 20 minutes, getting 3 Barons, going around the horn on the base turrets, and now going in for the 46-minute victory.
They are going to grab this 17-3, staving off any deaths for the past 20-plus minutes.
That's an impressive looking score for CLG. Yes, the game was long like a typical CLG game, but the decision-making by CLG was not something we've seen from them yet this year. So this is a very good sign as they move into the rest of Super Week.
And everybody on CLG has been themselves growing individually. Link has always been a top player that we talk about. Nien had a chance to build into a top laner, and he has done so as one of, now the best in North America, obviously as an LCS player. These guys both had a huge impact on that game. Deathfire Grasp charges coming in onto Daydreamin, and all of Nien's initiations were just spot on.
Yeah, and those Deathfire Grasp charges right at the start by Link, one of the big reasons that Coast was pushed back for so much of the game, because they were fearful of just getting caught around the corner by a Charm and being dead. Ward control by Chauster set that up, and that allowed Doublelift to farm without putting the rest of the team in a position where they couldn't make any plays.
You can completely see as well how much map pressure, map control, and objective control made these games happen for Coast throughout the 0-3 for CLG. This game, CLG controlled the objectives themselves up on 3 out of 5 Dragons, 2 Barons for themselves. The previous game between these was 4 Dragons for Coast, 2 Barons for Coast. So you can see when CLG says no, those will be ours, how much of a definitive game it puts.
Obviously, it was their best game against Coast all season because they were 0-3. But I'm actually willing to say that I think that was the cleanest CLG game I've seen all split. I'm trying to think back to some of the earlier games, because right at the start of the split, all their games were super messy. They were 50 minutes long, comebacks, 25 kills to 24. They had the crazy TSM game in MLG. Not many games like this. Maybe it's a new, maybe.
Well, the champions they pick take a lot of consideration in the team communication, like an Ahri, like that Nocturne dive. The first times we saw that happening, I believe, when they were GGU, nobody would follow Nintendu. They wouldn't be ready for it. So the teams that they do choose make it really difficult to initiate unless you have that communication, which they now do. All right, we've got to take a short break, but when we return, CLG's Chauster will join us to talk about hooking their first win against